Alright, so I wanted to test a little bit of the new brushes that have been uploaded to the Firealpaca brush store. A recent feature that was added uh, at the end of at the end of last year in December, I think. Um, I haven't tested these yet, and I haven't streamed on this channel for a while, so this is gonna be interesting. I'll just be doing like my usual brush tests and just trying out what's like the default way for these brushes to work and what's like the best way for me to work with these new brushes. So let's try them. So how you get to the brush store is the usual add brush button, and then at the bottom here you have this show brush store, get brush. Um, and you can see here that they started adding brushes quite a while ago. Okay, it doesn't show any kind of date, but I think with the newer ones. Well, in any case, you can see the full brush list also on their website at firepocket.com/materials. And it's unusual for this program to have these sort of downloadable brushes because usually that's what you would have the sister program Medibank Paint for, where you have this online cloud brush system. So you add a new brush, but you can download it from their cloud, and they have this variety of different brushes for different effects and purposes. Now most of them I don't really use, but a lot of the more for the purpose of inking and actually drawing, maybe a few effect brushes are really good for comics work. Anyway, Firepocket doesn't usually have this, so that they added this brush store recently is really cool because they've added some really interesting brushes here. Um, I have a few tests with these other brushes here. What I would recommend actually for those of you who are more drawing oriented, I really like this rendering handwriting pen. They're really nice. And for effects, these spark brushes and these newer electricity lightning brushes are also really nice. There's a few hatching pens added here. They also have default pens, I think, which some of them have some similar effect. They have this lasso fill, which is new, a script brush, um, a lot of different brushes. Oh, one of my favorites is this drop shadow brush. It's a bitmap brush, but it works really well like a real marker or something, like a marker brush, which you would usually those are script brushes in Firealpaca and Medibank Paint. So, oh, and for painting these oil markers and the watercolor brushes are also really nice. Okay, so let's start by downloading these into my personal brush list. I'm not gonna organize them, just leave them there at the end of the list because I have so many custom brushes of my own that it's just kind of it's gotten to be a bit much to organize all of them. But yeah, maybe I'll do it later. For now, just downloading them to the list is fine. What you can see here is also credit to the brushes. So I think these previous brushes are probably made by the Firepocket team themselves. Not sure who the specific author or authors are, but here for the inking or well uh, painting brushes, I suppose these three bitmap brushes they have a credit here. Dice Pro J. Now this is an artist that I'm not very familiar with, um, but well apparently they make a ton of brushes. Um, I think it could even be that they made a lot of the brushes that have previously been featured in Firealpaca, so let's try the new ones out. Okay, so DP Soft Pastel. Let's create a standard kind of file. Let's see. Oh, this is really nice. It almost feels like a marker brush. But it has a much more of a kind of like a jagged or kind of like this faded brushy end, a very natural looking end. TP flat. Okay. Oh, okay. Um, Now this is a much more typical bitmap brush. Now, for those of you who don't know what a bitmap brush is, in Firealpaca you can make custom brushes by add brush bitmap, um, take a random image. Well, usually I make a specific image that's meant to be a brush, but let's take a random image here from the desktop, and it will make a brush out of it. You can adjust different parts of it for different effects. Now, if this was a marker brush, I would adjust the rotation angle, but if this was a pencil brush, I would give it a random rotation of 100, minimum width of 0 to maybe, let's say 17 to give it a nice little kind of larger end like a real pencil, and I wouldn't rotate the hue or I wouldn't adjust the color jitter and hue jitter knobs here at all. There's also this rotate random 2 that they've added, which I'm not entirely sure what the point of second rotation is, but I guess it adds more variety to the brush. Anyway, then you get an interesting looking kind of brush, depending on the base image, the base bitmap image that you have used. Um, in any case, yeah, this looks really interesting, almost like a cheap pen. Anyway, I'm here to test the new ones that they have from the brush store. So this DP flat seems like a much more typical, I suppose maybe like this is meant for painting. Let me look at the brush store list again. So yeah, DP flat, a flat and lightly fuzzy brush. DP soft pastel, brush that resembles soft pastels. A flat and lightly fuzzy brush that blends colors with a watercolor mode. DP flat blend. Okay. The next ones are droplet and splash effects. So those are more effects brushes, not meant for drawing. So I'm going to try the last one out, DP flat. Okay, so it's like the same brush as just DP flat, but it's meant for blending. So you have two modes to kind of try out. So let's say that I'm painting something. Um, yeah, let's say I do the flat colors with DP flat. It has a slight opacity to it, so you can see actually here from this brush control window that the opacity is 96, I think. Yeah. Let's see what the settings give us. So minimum width 90%, width 97. So that's the size. Okay, so the opacity is actually 20%. But opacity by pressure, brush spacing is 2, rotation angles minus 22, rotate random 2. Okay, and if I put it to okay, very interesting. So, in any case, yeah, it has a nice kind of natural quality to it almost. If I make the background a colored background, something like, yeah. Yeah, let's make it a muted tone. muted kind of red, or yeah, why not? And let's try DP flat and choose a similar kind of color. Let's make it bigger. Well, it doesn't blend that much right now. I suppose that's because the color mixing level is yeah. So if I choose second, yeah, it looks like a nice kind of let's say you're painting with gouache or acrylics, and it's like a medium kind of paintbrush, like like something that you would, you know, you load up a bit of paint into the brush and then you add a bit of water, and it has like a medium quality to it. Yeah, this is nice. So if you can like choose your colors and keep mixing the colors, that's nice. But if we also change the color mixing and complement a little bit, it becomes more of a, let's see. Yeah, complement to be lower and mixing higher. And then, yeah, it becomes more of a kind of like a smudge brush. I'm not really painting anything specific here right now, I'm just testing it out. So I like how it has this similar effect to this previous brush that I mentioned in the list. Uh, so it has almost like a drop shadow here. You can see there's this effect at the edge of the brush stroke. So that's actually kind of nice. Let's try these other ones out. So splash 3, splash 4, and splash 5. So you can see that these are very different. Uh, they all have a very different kind of texture, but they're all scatter brushes. So you could probably use these for, let's say in this example that we made, if this was maybe like a forest or something, we could add some nice splatter here. And you can see that it's mixing in some other colors. I'm guessing it has a color jitter, yeah, and a hue jitter kind of. So what it basically this means is that it changes the color. So if I change this from 40 to, let's say, 90, it would jitter the color between different colors a bit more. Let's say hue jitter. So this is like seeing the hue switch, the brush switch from different hues more rapidly. But I kind of like the previous one, so let's stay at that. So yeah, with the other ones as well, it has a nice kind of very natural effect, I would say. Of course, with different colors, I would have a different effect. This one is very cloudy. It mixes the colors in a very even way at the amount of jitter and of color and hue jitter that it has. I suppose if I change it again to something larger, yeah, you would get a bit of a more variation with the colors here. And not the color that you chose, but something else entirely. And depending on how saturated the color is, you get different kind of effects. But again, I like the kind of setting that they left here at 10, and I suppose that this one was 40 as well. So this was kind of nice. let's see, let's test it with orange again. Yeah, so it leaves a, this means that it kind of chooses the color that you chose and only changes it a little bit. Let's try that first one, splash 3. Yeah, this one is more, it's a lot less hazy and much more clear cut as paint splatters go. If we make it bigger, we can see that these are random paint splatter shapes within the brush. So I'm guessing this is some sort of MTP Firealpaca source file, and they have layers of these paint splatters in it, something like that. So uh, those are the brushes, and you can access them here from the brush window. If you don't have it, you can access the brush window from Windows, um, brush, yeah, window, brush, and you can just get them from the new add brush button. It's the bottom selection here, show brush store, and get those brushes and other brushes that you want to try from this brush list. I'm gonna add this one here just to kind of try it out on this random kind of painting that I made. It's not really a painting, but I suppose if this was a real world painting, I would be testing out different kinds of things here. I would just be, you know, trying out different brushes and paints, but here I'm literally trying out a digital brush. Yeah, the brushes from this brush store are really interesting. For example, this hatching pen. It's not so usually in what I'm used to, at least, hatching pen would have straight lines within that pattern, but this one has actual pencil lines. So that looks interesting. They look very natural as well. I would, I would argue that as far as digital brushes go, um, yeah, it looks really nice. Kind of reminds me of my own custom brushes, and it adds this really interesting effect with these uh, this layer of paint splatters that I made. Um, if I change the effect on the, yeah, that looks interesting. Firealpaca has this feature called watercolor edge, so you can double tap or just open the later settings and select this effect, watercolor edge or watercolor edge cloudy, and it will, you can even select the strength of this effect, and it will do this little effect here. So if I take it away, yeah, so you can see here that the regular edge is just, it's a bit of a, it kind of like strengthens the edge, or like creates this effect as if you have like a line of multiply over it, or like a hazy edge. But the regular one is about a lot more subtle, and the cloudy one is a lot stronger. So you need to do this sort of stuff with the kinds of works where you want maybe a more uh, you want to mimic more traditional looking art, or you want the kind of effect. So here I just wanted to paint splatters at the edges to stick out more. Um, Guess here they're all kind of a almost flat saturated color, but with the edge they kind of stick out more. So that looks interesting to me. And the larger, so there's this little uh, slider almost. I wouldn't call it a slider, but well, I am calling this the slider right now, so you just you have 1 pixel here and 10 pixels here, so that's just a effect area of the edge. And I suppose this smaller one was actually kind of okay. And actually I can just go to my other list. I should have more of these crosshatch pens here somewhere. There's these others. Splash. Let's see. Yeah, this is a nice color. And depending on what the amount of jitter for color and hue is, you get a different kind of effect. And as I mentioned at one point, it can be very different from it can vary from interesting to not so interesting. So just explore and be kind of creative with it. Don't let the program control you. Just basically try to use the brushes for what you want to use them for. You don't have to make or attempt more traditional looking stuff. It can always be a lot more weird and unnatural. Just do whatever you want, really. Oh, this looks interesting. Um, oh, and these, so the cross-hatching I used was cross-hatching random, and it's a bitmap brush, but the other ones are cross-hatching 8 lines. So it's a roller ribbon type of brush, so that means that it creates this continuous pattern um, when you draw it. So this can also create quite interesting effects depending on how you use it. Here you can see that right now I'm just deleting some parts of the roller ribbon cross-hatching that I made. And it creates this slightly more interesting pattern than just the regular one. So the regular one looks like this. And it can be interesting. You can make some real interesting patterns with this. Maybe you're making like a basket or something, and it can look nice. But by using C on my keyboard, so I'm not actually sure if it's actual. If it's something you can actually set yourself, but in Firealpaca you can use C to switch between color and transparent, so you can basically use your own brush as an eraser instead of just a regular eraser brush, so you can actually erase the kinds of things that you drew here. And that in itself is one of the reasons I like using this program. So I'm going to use this watercolor filbert now to just paint over this red that I made here. Kind of duplicate this and protect alpha, and probably use another cross hashing. Yeah, to create another kind of effect here. And well, that's basically it for the brush demo. The new brushes are interesting. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, I guess I could use these brushes now to paint something interesting. So I like this. I like to use this drop shadow as an inking pen. Oh, make sure to save. Let's see what folder pops up when I save here. Okay, 2021 heart. And I'll just draw like a face or something here. Let's see. Let's use, so like I said at the beginning, DP soft pastel. It feels kind of like a more like a marker brush, really. So I'll use it just to draw on it. This. Now these are not going to be very good doodles, and they'll just be like kind of low effort tests to just a lot of scratching and doodling to see what how I can use them, and how I can use these brushes in an actual drawing. I think I'll use DP flat for just coloring. Yeah, sure, that works. Try to incorporate some of those background colors into what we see here. Switch between those two different well, two options of the same brush. And mix between the colors. Sometimes just change up the colors a bit. You don't have to actually color pick them, but just choose the colors that work for you. I really like this kind of fade effect that this brush has. Now from close up it may not look the best to some of you, but from far away, as with an actual painting, uh, physical painting, it actually looks quite nice, like an actual fade with an airbrush, or uh, almost like splaying or spraying the brush, the paint onto the canvas with the brush. And let's see. I want this to have an almost more of a sketchy kind of almost like a angry feeling, angry or kind of a sad feeling, like the paint has been kind of splattered onto here randomly. And I would say that this is mostly how my work goes. I just work quietly, in an almost fugue state. Like I just focus on the work itself more so than than just talking over the work. Can't really focus with more of the talking and less of the doing. But yeah, here I just want to try out something more random with these brushes than what I would normally do. I wonder how a smaller kind of blend brush would work here. So almost like I'm sketching over the paint. Still has a little bit too much. Yeah. Now at this point I'm more at the, honestly more at the sketching, kind of like the drawing over the drawing phase than rather than just preparing for the rest of the drawing. So now I'm just trying to kind of finish the rest of it and just try to see what sticks and what works. Yeah, I like how this DP soft pastel looks like. Again, it feels more like a marker than a rather than a pastel, but that's what it's been named. That's what I'm gonna continue calling it. I don't know what to do about this metal part. It looks a bit weird. I'm gonna make this spark brush have a minimum width. So before it was at something like 80, so that's good for if you want a continuous line of roughly the same size. But I want one that would respond to my brush a little bit more. Now I'm not actually sure if that'll work, seeing as the preview shows that it changes, but well, maybe I think it changes a little bit. So it should change according to the pressure on my tablet, but my tablet is quite old, so perhaps it's just not working anymore. Or maybe the brush is a little bit too big. So if I don't watch out, I can actually spend quite a bit of time at this part of a drawing, just trying out stuff. Seeing what works, what doesn't. And there's also this smaller spark brush. Um, let's see. This one adds something to the picture. Now I'm gonna add this into, combine them into a folder and test different kind of effects on it. Oh yeah, this looks kind of interesting. Hmm. Maybe if I merge the folder into. looks pretty cool. And maybe a filter chromatic aberrations. Let's see what that looks like on the X. Yeah. Yeah, that looks quite interesting. Cool. I think that sort of works, but now this face has fallen out of focus again, so let's see what we can add here. And maybe let's add something to the background here. Just to kind of work up on that theme of repetition going on here. What I do with when I work with Gaussian blur or other blur effects, I just well, I remember the value here and I write it up here just in case I want to repeat it. Now with this work, I'll probably not have any need to repeat it, but maybe with other works, I will. So it's just like a habit I've come up with over time. That looks interesting. And also duplicating the layers is just, again, a habit. Maybe kind of a dumb one, but I just do it to feel like I have a bit of control over the work. Yeah, that looks interesting. Yeah, this turned out surprisingly interesting for something that's kind of a random work. Add some finishing touches. It looks really random, but maybe it works. Just want to add a few details into a few places here. And basically done. Just a random sketch to try new stuff out. I think it looks alright. Hmm. Yeah, experimenting with brushes, even the layer overlays and stuff like that, it can work in your favor even more. Again, depending on what kind of effects you use. Might work, might not. All up to you. I can basically keep going here. But I think I'm gonna call it a night. And call it done. For anyone tuning in, thanks for watching. Hope the stream